Hi, folks. We're just waiting for everybody to join. We have some more people joining, and I think we're live on YouTube now. So now we're just waiting for Katie to join us.
Mom, I turned it off.
Hi, everybody. Katie has arrived. I'm letting her in the room. Hello, everybody. Let's see, Katie's here. There. All right, I will spotlight Katie.
Okay. Hi, everybody. You might want to, among your props, get some kind of strap or an old tie or long scarf or sash, something that you can use. We're going to be working on opening our thighs today, and sometimes it's helpful to have a strap that you can hold on to rather than have your fingers on your calf or your ankle or your toes. So take a moment to see about getting that. And if there's nothing convenient to use, you'll do fine without it. So we'll come into a comfortable seated pose. Feet tucked under each other. One foot tucked under a thigh, if that works for you. And take your hands with your thumbs behind your waist. Feel them on the bony protuberance in the back of the iliac crest. In your other fingers in front. And take a few forward and backward tilts of the pelvis. So forward tilt, you just, as though the thumbs are pushing the pelvis forward and then tilted back. Just a few times, sensitizing yourself to the fact that this great big bone, which lifts us up into standing postures and straight seated postures, has a lot of different subtle movements. So it can pick us up from all fours, but it can also determine the length and alignment of the spine. So it can be forward, and then you'll feel perhaps in the mid back a little bit of discomfort. So get your pelvis at the right angle so that your hips are over your shoulders. Bring one of your hands into the low back and notice that curve there in the lumbar spine. Bring the other hand to the back of the neck. Notice that curve. And then as you move the top hand down the spine just a little bit, it won't go too far. You'll notice a little rounding, a different kind of curve in your thoracic spine. So those are the three most notable curves in the spine. So let them be open and not terribly magnified, but they're according to your natural structure. And close the eyes. Feel how your sit bones anchor into the mat. Feel how the tops of the shoulders are like little domed bones. It could be said to kind of umbrella above the hip bones. So be aware of your other joints. Those in your toes and your fingers, you might want to move them a little bit. Ankle joints and wrist joints. Elbow joints. Hip joints. You might want to move side to side a little bit here. Shoulder joints. Maybe raise one shoulder and then the other. And of course, all the connections in the vertebrae from the tailbone all the way up toward the base of the skull. So bring your hands out, palms are up, middle fingers touching the mat. And let's take a few big breaths. Inhale in. Exhale, turn the palms down. 2 more. Open to breath, to expansion. Exhale peacefully Settle down with the exhale into more of a contracted pose. One more time, lift. Exhale down. Bring your hands to rest on your thighs. And I'll talk for a few minutes as you close your eyes. Just get comfortable in the meditative stillness of your body. So our theme tonight is ahimsa. This is one of the precepts of yoga. In pre-classical yoga, when the first rules or principles of yoga were established and are still very much part and parcel of yoga today, ahimsa was the first one introduced, and it means nonviolence. We're not going to get political here, but obviously we're all aware of a current of violence in our country at the moment. And before we even let ourselves go there to anything political or any judgment or anything about who's responsible, we're going to take a moment to realize that ahimsa is a precept that is there because each and every one of us have the capacity within us to be violent, if not physically, perhaps in words, perhaps in thought, and if not to others, then to ourselves. So as there is this perpetuation of unconscious violence within all of us, of which we need to become aware of in our yogic journey. So I'd like to share with you that I was brought up in a Jewish household, and my parents were both descended from long lines of rabbis, and both from Europe. And there were many family members who didn't make it out of Europe during the Holocaust. And so it was a very personal thing, that kind of violence. But the main lesson, my parents, particularly my mother, wanted us to take away from the Holocaust was, this is not a lesson about the Germans and how awful they can be. This is a mirror we have to hold up to our faces and look at, because there is not one ethnicity only that's more capable of that kind of violence. Same lesson as ahimsa. It can be within all of us. So in our lifetimes, we've seen it between the Tutsis and the Hutus. We've seen it in Bosnia. We've seen it between Protestants and Catholics. We've seen people turn their violent convictions and ideal on people who simply have different beliefs, different color of skin, different ways of worshiping. So coming into this idea of ahimsa today, we're going to zero in on trying to become more sensitive to the ways in which we're violent with ourselves. And that in particular takes place with very often unconscious but negative self-talk. When we mutter to ourselves about how stupid we are or how inadequate, we have these revolving narratives about, yep, wrong again. There I go. I said the wrong thing. I did it in this clumsy way. violence, violence, violence to the self. So that's what we're going to tune into and try to let go of. And the muscle group that we're going to work on today within the internal rotation of the hips in particular are the adductors. And I chose that because we don't often work on the adductors and they're big, strong muscles. And adduction, the first three letters are ADD. It is a functional movement of adding on, not taking away. So I see it as a plus rather than a minus. And that's a little bit of a stretch there to tie our asana into our theme. But that's what I've decided to do. So we're also going to use the mudra of the Padma, the lotus. So mudra is a gesture. And why Padma mudra? Because the lotus, so if you take both your hands and hold them out and cup them a little bit, raise the fingers, and then pull the wrists together and bring the tips of the thumbs and the tips of the pinkies in, creating the shape of a lotus flower. The beauty of this amazing flower that blooms in every imaginable color, and it blooms all year long in India. The beauty of the lotus is that its roots are in the mud. And we too come from mud, dirt, a lot of unpleasant things in a certain sense. We have a gross energy, which is grainy and gritty. It isn't as though we're born from soft clouds. So remembering our humble beginnings and remembering always to go to those and always to remember that our basest energies and our tendencies toward violence and speech, thought, or action come from ego, which is exactly what the yoga practice is all about, casting off bit by bit, so that instead of being run by that smaller self who needs attention and praise and adulation, we center ourselves in our humility and in our oneness with everybody else. Nobody's better, nobody's worse. So open your eyes, looking into your mudra. If you have any intention for your practice today, tuck it into the mudra as you lift your hands and lift your arms and spread the seeds of it out into this troubled world of today. And we'll begin now by coming down onto our backs. Knees are bent, feet are parallel on the floor. We're going to lift the right leg, hold the back of the thigh, and even as you're doing something as simple as this, notice always, are you doing violence to your body by pulling too hard? If you're trying to get more rather than less of a stretch, is it because it feels good, or is this an ego? Are you determined to make this move look good to yourself so then you can feel really proud like Jack Horner? You hold out the plum. Now listen to what your body needs and move gently. So just a little bit of pressure on the back of the thigh, and then take perhaps your right hand and bring the fingers into the inner thigh just a little bit run them up and down, and you'll feel those adductors, the muscles that are pulling the thighs together, adding on. You'll also feel your quadriceps here. Your hamstring. So you're getting a nice stretch behind here. And then bend the knee into the chest. And here's where you might take a strap. Both pull it around the sole of the foot and then hold it with both hands. I just like to touch my toes. My knee is bent. And slowly work on stretching the right leg. Now you could make this a little bit more challenge by stretching the left leg down on the mat, bringing the left hand to the left hip to keep it grounded. But you could also keep the knee up. So if straightening the leg is doing too much violence, there's no need not to bend it. Very slowly, if you're using the strap, you might be bringing both ends together in your left hand. We're going to bring the right foot, which is flexed, slowly down toward the right side of the mat, away from the body, pausing with a breath. Keep the knee bent if you need to, but as much as possible, we're trying to get toward a straight leg. No need to go down any further than it feels good. You're going to start feeling a little bit of a pinch or a pull in the right adductors. The left hip might want to come up, so if the leg is straight, keep the hand on there. The foot can come down on a block. It can just stay suspended a little bit. Or perhaps gentle breathing, you're going to come on to the side of the foot. Elbow should be down. It could be on a block. And rest here. And if it's not comfortable, pull it back to where you are, focusing in on the adductors. So the adductors are working in both thighs, trying to pull the insides of them together. Why? So we don't split in two, right? So there are seams that need to stay together so the garment doesn't split. Inhale, slowly lift the leg back up. Hold either side of the right foot with your fingertips. And now pull the knee outside of the right chest in toward the armpit. Don't worry about it getting down on the mat. I like to pile my hands on the sole of the foot and just lean into the sensations that I'm feeling in the back and the inner thigh. Inhale and exhale. Slowly straighten again. Keep a bend in the knee if that works for you. And either holding the toes, the big foot, you can wrap the peace finger, which is either the index finger, the index finger and the middle finger around the big toe. And guide that leg as much as it can go across the other thigh. So this is going to be a little harder. So use your breath. And once again, the left leg can stay down or you can bend the knee. So here you're also drawing on your external hip rotators. So you're stretching them as well as the adductors. So adductors and abductors, the ones that pull together, the ones that pull away are working. Bend the knee if you need to. Breathe. And notice if you're being peaceful with yourself during this slow movement series, or is there some kind of need to be rash and push and get there? And remember that there's no there to get to. This is what you're feeling, what's working. And the breath is your best friend here, allowing you to slowly release and get as far as you need to go. Inhale back up. Lower the leg down, straighten the left leg down if it's bent. And now flex the feet. So turning the toes to face the upper body. Notice how the calf muscles engage. And you might even lift your heels off the floor by doing this. And then point right foot and keep the left toes dorsiflexed. And switch. And notice how the movements of the toes, the flexion and the extension, go all the way up into the thigh muscles. Of course, into the ankles and knees as well. We're going to work on the second side. Perhaps begin with your right leg bent. And with or without your strap, your choice, you're going to lift the left leg. As you lift it, before you hold on, for most of us, it's not going to be quite straight. So we're going to hold on or use the strap to see if we can bring it towards straight. Notice I'm saying toward, not too straight, because we don't want to jerk any of the joints or the tendons. Breathe through this. Try to keep the right leg from falling out to the side. So you're using your right adductors too to hug the thighs together. Either with a strap or your fingers. Stay there till you feel the hamstrings agreeing to cooperate here. If they're feeling tight, if you're feeling any pain in the knees, bend. Notice immediately how that settles the lower back too, and the SI joints behind. So keep that knee bent. Right arm can be in cactus or out to the side. And gently open up. You've got all the time in the world for this. So right now, the left leg is opening out in abduction. It's pulling away. But there is an adductive movement going on in the right thigh to keep everything from splitting apart. So when you think about some of these functional movements, the beauty of them is that the human body is designed to stay together. This is what the myofascial tissue is, and the skin, and the way the bones, the muscles all come together. It's designed to work together and maintain its integrity as a whole. Wherever you are, settle in with a breath. Inhale to lift up. Holding both sides of the left foot to make sure the foot is not tweaked on a diagonal, but your toes are pointing straight behind you. And moving the knee outside of the chest, aiming the left knee. And again, here you might want to lengthen the right leg or not. You could keep it bent. Gently encourage the knee to pull down. So you're softening in the hip flexors. I like the weight of my palms on the ball of my foot. You'll always notice that one side's different than the other, more flexible, more rigid, whatever. And we don't have to be violent to get them to look or act exactly alike. Dealing with our bodies is not military school. No violence needed. Can we begin to find words to substitute for, I'm bad at this, I can't do this side? Are there other kinds of vocabulary choices you can make that are gentler, less self-abusive? Stretching out, left arm goes out, right hands are on the toes, maybe on the strap, and we're just crossing now. So we have intense adduction going on now. Pay attention to the left lower back and how it wants to help by pulling off the floor. Don't go so far that it does pull off the floor. You're probably where you need to be. The idea here is not to get foot over to the right side. Take one more breath cycle for this. Inhale up. Exhale, lower the left foot. Bring both feet to the edges of the mat, kind of pigeon-toed, and let the knees lean in constructive rest. So this is a counterpose to that intensity of abduction. Inhale, bring your palms together. Form your Padma, your lotus. Curl the fingers a little. Pull the wrists where they join down to the sternum, to the heart center. Soften the low back. Breathe. Spread the fingers straight and wide and back. And then turn onto your right side slowly. Coming onto the right hip and prepare to come to all fours. Align knees over hips, wrist under shoulders. We're going to come into our bird dog pose. I will turn this way so you can see me. So we're in right angles of legs, arms are straight. So we're going to keep the right leg bent, but lift the thigh so it's parallel with a mat. Point the toe, don't over point. And then lift the left arm and bend at the elbow. So the palm is facing in toward the ear, maybe a little further forward. Now this is some tricky balance here. And we are using our abductors and we are using our bandhas. We are using our root and belly locks to lift up the abdominal floor, pull the belly in, getting that feeling like we're cinching the hips together. Feel the thighs trying to pull together, extend leg and arm, and bring them down. Other side. Lift the leg first, knee is bent. You might look and make sure that the thigh only comes parallel, not way up where your hip comes out of alignment. And the right arm comes forward, the thumb is up, back toes are pointed. So you want to try to lift the elbow on the right arm up to the same height as the shoulder. Use that pelvic strength. Pull in those muscles and feel that same kind of adduction. We're pulling it in together. Heating up the core, firing it up, extending leg and arm. Pull it down. Sink back to your hips. Let the head rest in child's pose on the floor, on a mat. Some people are comfortable with their head suspended. If that works for you, it's okay. That's always a challenge for me, so I like it down. Rock your hips side to side a little bit. Utthita Balasana, extended child's pose. Now lift up onto the hands, lifting the torso a little bit, and widen the knees, but keep the feet together. The sides of the big toes touch, and allow your hips to come back as far as they may. Notice the difference here inside the thighs. So chest comes to the mat, head can stay up. Feel your arms on the mat. And now stretch your arms a little further forward. And now allow your gaze to turn to the mat. Head's on a block or the mat or perhaps suspended. See if you can sink into the heaviness of the pelvis and the thigh. Inhale and exhale. Come forward. Bring the hands together, paralleling them in Sphinx pose. Straightening the legs behind you. And lift the right foot up. Take the left hand and parallel it with the front of the mat, but have the left elbow underneath the left shoulder. And then bring your right hand to your right ankle or the top of the toes. And just pull it in toward your shoulder, toward your right hip, opening up, feeling it in the quads in particular. Careful with any violent pulling. Pull it back, come back onto Sphinx arms, and then circle that ankle, go the other way, flex and point a little bit, and we'll do the other side. Right leg comes down. Notice for a second how your legs naturally fall out. So your weight, your tendency will probably be to come onto the pinky edges of your feet when you're just resting there. Use your adductors and pull inward so the center of the knee is on the mat. You can feel the pubic bone and you are using your adductors. Pull the belly in, lift the left foot, toe slightly pointed. This might be as far as you go. You might try reaching back and that might not feel good. You will turn the arm, front arm, And maybe it's just not right for your left shoulder or for the stretch of your arm. Maybe you're tight in the pecs, but if you can, you'll grab any part of that foot. And as you pull the heel down toward your left hip, you open the left quadrant of the torso and use the adductors, especially the left one here. Keep it pulling into its buddy on the right side. And in so doing, you're synergistically helping the adductors and the hamstring. They're working together. Release. Come down to the forehead. Bring your hands just under the breastbone. Bring your feet together. Insides of the feet are touching. And lift the legs together. Feel like you're pulling up from the pelvic floor. Elevator going up. Lengthen the back. You don't have to come up far. Hug the elbows in. Adductors are engaged. Inhale, lower the feet. Lift up onto the knees. Curl the back, chin to chest. And come back to child's pose. From here, we're going to take 3 flows of going from extended child's pose to cobra. So it's a bit of a challenging flow. Find the way to do this that works for you and to talk about it with yourself in a gentle way. To start in child's pose. And rather than feeling a heaviness in the body, see if you can begin by feeling a springiness, a lightness. You're going to just lift your head a few inches off the mat and look straight down. Pull your hips forward a little bit and gently slide the hands forward. Keep looking down as you move forward. Lower the elbows and come into cobra. Now we're not in an exact cobra pose, it's a variation of Sphinx and Cobra. And now you're gonna lift onto your knees, thighs hug together, chin to chest, walk your elbows back and down. This time lift your head. Separate your hands a little wider than normally on the mat. Push into the fingertips. Lift the hips a little bit. Look straight ahead, but stay low. Try to hug the elbows toward each other and go as far forward as you can. Coming onto your chest. Point your toes. Lifting up now in a cobra. So feel the shoulders. You might want to lift them up to your ears, roll them back, and then feel the shoulder blades sliding back. Lift onto your knees. Really curl it under like you're in a cat pose. Following spine. Go back. One more time. Inhale, lift the head a few inches. Pull the arms as forward as you can. No violence committed here about pulling on the armpits too strongly. Gaze is forward and low. Slide the arm, the torso, the hip, and this time come up, angle the hips far forward of the knees, lift the toes up off the mat, back onto the elbows, lower the chest, let the feet fall to the side, and cross one leg in back of the other, and then switch. So again, countering this intense sensation of adduction. Lower the leg, lift up into sphinx. Bring your arms into cactus pose. So right angles of the arms. Bring the feet together. You're going to lift the arms off the mat. Keep them there in right angle. Lift the chest and the head. Feel the spine trying to lengthen forward, even out to the crown of the head, and rooting the tailbone down toward the mat, toward the pubic bone. And stay here or lift the legs a little more. Breathe. One more option is to stretch the arms in front. Interlace the fingers. Pull the feet back together. Get a nice full body stretch. Exhale, hands down. Pull back into child's pose. And take 3 deep breaths. So why does child's pose always feel so good? Because we are being gentle to ourselves. We are practicing ahimsa. We are saying, I need rest, and I honor that in my body. Perhaps the more we're able to listen to our own dialogues with each other, the more open we are to hearing the points of views of others. So always interesting to look at what the ego is doing, that little self. Watch me, mommy. Watch me, daddy. Be impressed. Look at how well I do that. And that need sometimes becomes so habitual and controlling that we're unaware that we even do it with ourselves when nobody's watching. So yoga is a great laboratory for studying that phenomena. One more breath here. Straighten the arms forward. Come up onto the knees. Tuck the toes and come into your first down dog. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Move back and forth. Discover each part of each foot, what it feels like to gently pull the heel down if it goes all the way. Notice if you're rounded or if you can push the hips back and straighten the spine a little bit and point the heart low down. And step the right foot forward. Come onto fingertips. Left hand to left thigh. Think adductors. You're going to try to hold the inside of those thigh muscles close together. Right hand to right thigh. Pull the shoulders back, aligning them over the hips. Come into your Padmasana. You're on the ball of the left foot. Inhale, lift your lotus. Keep hugging the thighs together. Exhale, open the hands to the sides and bring them to the hips. So this next pose is Warrior One. And I want you to make a decision for yourself if this pose is a good pose for you or a violent pose. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to pivot the left foot so the toes come out to the side a little bit, and then get the whole sole of the foot down on the mat. Now, rework the front leg so to the degree as much as possible, you have your right knee over your right ankle. Now, your left hip is out, but the idea in this pose is we're using adduction in the left thigh. So you're trying to gently push your left hip a little more forward. If this feels too intense for you, then instead of doing it, just go back to crescent pose that we were just in, where your toes point forward and the ball of the back heel is off the floor. If you can manage this, wonderful. If you can't, no less wonderful. Inhale up. Exhale, bend both knees as you turn the back toes forward. Keep both knees bent. Hug the thighs together. Adduction. We're adding on. We're combining. We're working toward oneness, allness. Fingertips come down. Step back to downward facing dog. And then come into your plank pose. Lift the right leg off the mat. Cross it to some degree over the left leg, as close to the thigh as possible. Back and down on the floor. Come on to the knees. Relax the toes. Push the hips forward. Elbows lower. So you'll take a modified chaturanga or come all the way down. Pull the hands down to the ribs. Inhale, either in cobra or up dog, where you lift your thighs off the mat. Turn the toes under if you're there. In either case, come to downward facing dog. Breathe. Turn the toes in toward each other. Knock your knees together. Push your hips back. And then square the feet normally and down dog. Step the right foot forward. Left hand on the left thigh. Right hand. Coming up slowly. Use the belly. Use your internal locks. Right, yoga toes came off. And gently lifting our lotus. Raising high. Feel that energy in the thighs. Pulling together. Pulling apart is not where we're at right now. Inhale up, open the arms, bring them down to the thighs. Let's experiment with whether Warrior One is right for you or not. So pivot the right toes out, The right heel comes down and you should feel the edge, the outside edge of the right foot too on the mat. Left knee is over the ankle. If you're that adept at it, then you won't even see your toes. But if it's pulled back a little, you will see your toes. Still, you want it as aligned as much as possible. So this is warrior one. You're trying to gently pull that right hip forward in adduction. If it is uncomfortable, go back to crescent where you're lifting the heel and the toes are forward of the right foot. Inhale. Exhale. Come all the way down. Step it back to down dog and then plank. Don't let your belly sink like a, what are they called, Peking pigs, where the belly is just like a great big pocketbook hanging down there. Lift your left leg up, cross it over the right. Pull in your abdominals, squeeze the thighs together. Exhale down, coming onto the knees. Lift both feet up. Come down, elbows hug the side body. Lower onto the hips. Reach back for both feet. Keeping the thighs together. Lift your legs off the mat a little bit if that's possible in Dhanurasana, bow pose. Inhale. Exhale. I'm going to take a break. We'll try it one more time. Lift your head on the inhale. Lift your thighs, shoulders back. Trying to pull the legs closer together rather than further apart. And exhale. Pull yourselves back to child's pose. Rest. Recalibrate. Revisit your joints. The muscles. The tissues. One more breath. Up to downward facing dog. Step forward, or perhaps you're ready to take a little hop forward. Halfway forward fold, Ardha Uttanasana. Fingertips or under ankles, under wrists. Feel the edges of your feet, the lateral edges. Notice how there's a kind of bowing energetics in the legs. Notice what you feel in the insides of the thighs. Forward fold, bending completely into Uttanasana. And please bend your knees here if there's any discomfort. Bending the knees now. Keeping them bent as we lift all the way up. Adductors working together to keep us upright. So there's a real correlation here between the bend in the knees and the engagement of the adductors. Bringing the hands to the heart center. Anybody who wants to can knock the knees together here. That might give you a little more stability. And it will also keep one hip from protruding unnoticeably. So the hands, thumbs are at the sternum. We're going to twist a little to the right, bend a little more, and see if we can take the left elbow onto the right thigh, and then stack the palms and the elbows. And if it feels good to you, you can open it completely. So the left hand is down, palm is facing out, and the right arm is up. Twisting in this pose, use those adductors, pulling the insides of the thighs together. Inhale back to center. Keep the knees bent as you lift up. And now straight. For trying eagle pose tonight, you might want to use the top of a chair, the top of a table, or you might want to just do it in free space. You'll stand with your feet together, hip distance apart. So your right hand would be the one that's holding something if it is. You bend your left knee a little, cross the right leg over the left. Immediately notice the adduction. Some people have the flexibility, others don't, to just take the back foot and double bind it around the left ankle. That will tighten the adduction to a large degree, but if it doesn't feel good, there's no point in doing it. At this point, the left arm will cross over the right. To be successful here, keep the gaze steady. Cross the arms. Shoes off. And tightly squeeze together in this pose. So it's that same energy of the adductors, but here we're using it in the upper body as well. Squeeze and release. Take a wide stance and lift the arms out. Exhale, forward, forward, sweep the arms. Inhale up, hold the right wrist, left wrist with the right hand, and take a side bend and open. And inhale up, left wrist holds right, open, and we'll try the other side. So this time I'm going to face forward so you can see me. We're going to start at Utkatasana, which is fierce pose. So interesting, these names, words we use. Fierce, does that have a negative connotation to us? If it does, maybe change it to something like this. This is also called chair pose because we sit as though we were about to make contact with the seat. So knees are together, not. Hands are at heart center. Open your lotus. Lift it up. Bring it back down. Twist gently to the left. Hands stay together. Maybe you're going to stay here. Maybe you're going to dip your right elbow onto your left thigh. If not, no violent self-talk. You can stay here. Knees might be pushing together. You can open up, right fingertips on the mat. Left arm up. Open that wingspan. Open, open, open. Exhale. Come back to the beginning of the pose. Knees stay bent. And then finally we reach up. Garudasana on this side. So anchoring into the right leg. So Garuda is an eagle. He's a mythic creature in Indian lore. And the idea is an eagle with its wings spread out is a very different creature than an abducted eagle, closed in, adding to itself, preparing for warmth, for sleep, for rest. So lift the left heel up, cross the left leg over the right as it bends. Let the foot stay there or double bind. Right arm comes across left. Hands are back to back. They're never even. You can double bind them and squeeze. Lift the pelvic floor. Use the adductors. Keep your gaze steady. Pull through the crown of the head. And then lift up. Feet wide. Turn them on the diagonal. And then bend into the right knee. And then into the left. And you can lift onto the heel of the foot that's on the straight leg. See if you can keep your back straight as you're doing this. Good. From here, heel toe your feet closer together. And we're coming back into our crescent pose. So right foot is going to come forward. We're on the ball of the left foot. Those toes are forward too. Bend the right knee. What we're coming into from here is warrior three. So concentrating on the adduction. One leg will be up and back. The other will be anchored into the floor. But the idea is using those muscles to keep that inner stability. So bend, arms are at your side. Bend into your right leg. Use as adductors. Lift the left foot behind you. Only straighten the right leg if that seems to work for you. Feel like somebody's lifting the left heel up and up and up. Arms can be in front or to the sides. Thumbs can go down and palms can come up and back. Trying to get your chest parallel to the floor. Bend both knees together. Swoop up, interlace the thumbs and take a back bend. And exhale. Other side. Warrior three. So right leg comes back. Left foot is forward. Bend the left knee. Make sure you really feel grounded in that left foot. Lift. Right leg. Arms forward. See about straightening the leg. Lift up from the pelvic floor. Arms may come out. Leg keeps rising and we're still hugging the thighs together. And back up. Good. Hands on the waist. Bring the shoulders up to the ears. Bring them back to the back of the neck. And then let the shoulders roll down. Right ear is over the right shoulder. Circle the chin toward the right or middle side of the right chest. And back up. And left ear comes down to the left shoulder. Bring the chest so it touches the left middle. Center and up. Hands interlaced together behind the back of the skull. Feel energy drawing up the inside seams of the legs all the way to the thighs. And now take a slight back bend, lifting up in the belly, very grounded in the pillars of your legs, opening the elbows, the side ribs, beginning to gaze up and coming back. Lotus pose, gently bending the knees. And you only go as far down as you're comfortable going. When you're ready to get some help, bring one hand down and then the other. And then come to your seat. Close your eyes for a moment. Breathe. Take the right foot out in front and cross it over the left leg. Bring both arms to cross and pull the right thigh in toward the chest. So a little bit of a counter pose here. We're working on the external rotators. Pull and breathe. And switch, left leg down, bent on the mat, right foot across left thigh, hug into the outside of the left leg, and pull that thigh into the belly. So the adductors and the abductors are antagonist muscles. When one's working and engaging and firing, the other muscle gets to rest. And that's what a stretch really is. Good. And we're going to come onto our backs now. Feet are on the floor. Bring the bent right knee down on an angle on the floor. Bring your hands to the fronts of your hip bones. And then slowly lower the left foot so it meets up with the sole of the right. And bring your fingers down inside thighs. Let them stroke the length of the adductors. Maybe sort of use the hands in a circular motion to let those muscles really disengage and relax. And then bring your right hand to the belly and your left hand to your heart chakra. Don't be so taut that you won't let your elbows drape onto the floor, so you don't have to be that centered on the midline of the body. Shoulders rest. All the joints are resting. If you feel any discomfort in the lower back in this pose, a little bit of a blanket rolled up underneath might help. Just take a few moments here. Consider how much better it feels to be kind to ourselves. So that does not mean disacknowledging our capacity to be rather brutal and harsh at times, and possibly even violent. So we need to look at that side that's in all of us, to accept it and work on it, so we are more understanding of when we see that in other people. And realize to what degree it's generally a function of our poor little egos trying so desperately to get noticed. The ego lives in fear of being squashed. And so easy it is to misidentify and think we are our egos. We are so much more than that. So as you stay here or lower your legs into Shavasana, using your blankets or pillows for a few more comfortable moments, imagine you're looking into your Padma, your own lotus flower, acknowledging the humility of being born in mud and having the strength to grow up through the water on strong, slender stalks, choosing your colors, and find some ahimsa language to describe your yoga. Find the vocabulary that qualifies what you do in a positive, affirming, gentle, and intelligent way. Thigh muscles relax, feet roll out, the calves and the buttocks soften. You've done the work. Now we let it seep in. Feel the warmth and the flush of gratitude for being tender with yourself. The more we practice that, the better we get at it. And the more adeptly we can share that with others. On an individual level, this is the yogi's way forward. Stay where you are as long as you like. I will seal our practice with an Om. First, opening up into my Padma, filling it with love for all of you, for all mankind, offering it up to higher energy, bringing my fingers down to my heart center. In preparation for sealing our practice with a chant of Om, the sonic symbol of who we are when we're all in harmony. Om.